All right, with a lot of uncertainty happening right now in the marketplace, a lot of people are wondering what is the future of Canadian real estate. So in this video, I'm going to go over 3 key things that I personally see happening in the short to long-term future in Canadian real estate. I'm that agent Kelly. I talk about Canadian real estate and my local market of Abbotsford and the Fraser Valley. And if you're into that, subscribe to the channel, like this video. If you would like early access to pre-sales in my market, that's what I sell, and you can get that access by signing up to the Equity Club using the link down below. So when I first got into real estate, and keep in mind, this was just 3 years ago, an 800 square foot 2-bedroom was a small floor plan. And most of the projects, pre-sale projects launching at that time did feature an 800 square foot 2-bedroom, and that was kind of like the middle ground for their 2-bedrooms. And now today, an 800 square foot 2-bedroom is a large 2-bedroom floor plan. Most of the 2-beds that I'm seeing get launched today are about 750 square feet in these brand new projects. And if it's a high rise, it's gonna be even smaller. It's gonna be like high 600s to low 700s square feet for a 2-bed. And if you go back to the 90s, a 900 square foot 2-bedroom was considered to be small back then. I specifically remember my mom calling them shoe boxes back in the day, a 900 square foot shoe box. And the reason why is because back then the normal square footage for a 2-bedroom was like 1,000 square feet, 1,100 square feet, 1,200 square feet. So number one, the first thing that I see happening here in Canada over the future of the real estate market is that units are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. We have to keep price points lower to keep the units more affordable. But the cost to build is increasing. So the only way to keep the price lower as the cost to build goes up is to build less. And that doesn't make the cost of the home actually go down. It just keeps it as the same price, but you get less for your dollar. So last year you buy a 500 square foot unit for $500K. This year you're buying a 480 square foot unit for $500K. Price is the same, you get less home. And you know, people will say, well, how could the units possibly get any smaller? They're already 480 square feet. And the thing is I could think of a lot of ways that they could cut costs and make these units smaller. So they can make the appliances smaller. You might even be able to get rid of some of the appliances. Like, I'm not familiar with the building code, but I know a lot of older homes don't even have a dishwasher, and you might not need to include a microwave. They could get rid of balconies altogether. That would be huge savings. They could eliminate a lot of the storage and parking and have that become a luxury. Shared laundry could make a comeback. I don't know if that's part of the code, but I'm just giving you some ideas that they could play with to keep costs down and, you know, fully maximize the space of a unit. And obviously this wouldn't make sense in every single city across all of Canada, but I'm just speaking and saying, and obviously this wouldn't make sense across every single city in Canada. Like, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want to do this in like Airdrie, Alberta, or like somewhere in the rural areas of Saskatchewan. But all I'm saying is that there's still plenty of ways that they can overall degrade the quality of living to make units more affordable. And I think a lot of projects today, you see them, even low rises, are getting built with a lot of amenities now. So your home is super small and there's not a whole lot you can do with the home. It's hard to entertain guests. It's et cetera, et cetera. However, you know, you can entertain guests in the common area that has a TV and a kitchen and blah, 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 blah. Maybe there's a theater room that you can watch your movies in now. Maybe there's, you know, a golf simulator room where you can go and, you know, hit around the golf ball a little bit. And providing these amenities gives the builder more flexibility to actually make the home smaller, because people don't always need to be in their home if the project itself has a lot of amenities. So I see units getting smaller and less comfortable over the coming years, and I see the builders getting a lot more creative with the way that they are building these units to keep the costs down. The second thing is I think you're gonna see a lot more roommate situations to help aid with the cost of rent. A 1-bed in Vancouver, for example, costs like $3,000 a month to rent. It couldn't possibly go to $4,000, right? Well, what if 2 people are splitting that rent? Right? Now it's $2,000 a head instead of one person paying $4,000. And I'm definitely not saying this is a good thing, so please don't get mad at me for saying this. I'm just saying that that is a very strong possibility of what's to come. A $1.6 million home in Surrey right now is pretty unaffordable for, you know, basically 99% of the population. However, What if that mortgage was being split by 4 people? Now, each person basically only has to pay down a $320,000 mortgage with an $80K down payment. And what if that $1.6 million home has a rental suite in the basement, right? Now it's actually super affordable for 4 people to split the cost of that home because they have a rental suite covering some of the mortgage and then they're splitting the remainder of it. So I think we're going to see a lot more people starting to share their living expenses, and that is going to become more culturally acceptable for people to do that. 3, so this is the way that the property ladder has always worked and will now change, in my opinion. For many, many years, you basically, you would buy your first home, you would live in it for 3 to 5 years, you would sell it, and then you would move up into the next one for 3 to 5 years, you would sell that, and then eventually you'd be in a detached home. So you would start off in like a 2-bed condo. You might even keep that and just refinance to then buy the townhome and rent out the condo. Then eventually in 3 to 5 years after that, you sell the townhome and you move up into a detached home. Now you have a detached and like a rental condo. That's like pretty much how the property ladder has worked for the last like 20, 30 years. And even before that, you would just like buy a detached home and then you would sell the detached home and buy a nicer detached home back in like the baby boomer era. And I personally think the property ladder is going to start looking something like this. You buy a studio or a smaller 1-bed, you upgrade to a 1-bed and den or smaller 2-bed, then you upgrade to a larger 2-bed, 2-bed and den, a 3-bed condo, a 2-bed townhome, or a 3-bed townhome. And then I think detached homes will become, only an option for a very small subset of people as detached homes become more and more of a luxury type of thing. I think the majority of people will not have the option to even consider buying a detached home, kind of like what it is right now, but people at least have the option to move up the property ladder and then buy a detached home in like 20 years type of thing. I don't even think that will be an option going forward into the future. Now, I think this is a ways away, like when we're talking about all of Canada, because there's still a lot of affordable markets across Canada, but I think for the larger metropolitan cities, this is coming pretty soon. So I don't mean to be negative. Some people might actually find this to be positive because it likely means that the value of your real estate is going to go up. But I don't mean to be negative. This is just my unfiltered opinion of what I genuinely think is going to happen. I'm 29 years old. I would love to be able to just like buy the sickest detached house ever. And I would have loved to buy it 8 years ago before I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with shared laundry for 6 years, my entire freaking 20s. That's for sure. So I'm definitely not saying this is a good thing. I'm just saying this is probably our reality in the future. So if you enjoyed this, subscribe, like the video. If you want early access to pre-sale deals, sign up to the newsletter. I'm that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.